or any other bombshells you want to drop on us. But going back to the beginning, more about this sharp-dressed man, more about how he was getting him on the aircraft with these international flights. You've got to show the passport again. I've done that myself many times. You know, at the gate, this doesn't happen. Why was this guy given such deference? Did he look like security? Did he flash anything? Go back to the time, slowly tell us what you saw, and then anything interesting about the underwear bomber himself.
Okay. So before we boarded, obviously we're in Amsterdam. It was just my wife and I. There weren't any seats in the boarding area, so we sat on the floor by what I would call the ticket agent, the last person that checks your boarding pass before you board the plane. We're about 10 feet away or so, just playing cards. And, you know, passing time, and I was kind of people watching, and I saw these two men approach the ticket agent. And they just kind of caught my eye because it seemed strange to me that they were together. One I would describe as he looked like he was a poor, a black teenager is how I would describe him, 16, 17 years old or so. What I thought was 16 or 17 years old. And the other man looked like a 50-ish, he looked wealthy. Indian, what I would say Indian man now, you know, whether he's of a similar race or something, I don't know, but to me, it looked like he was from India. And they approached this ticket agent together. It was quiet, and I could hear the entire conversation. Only the Indian man spoke, not the black man, and what he said was, this man needs to board the plane. He doesn't have a passport. The ticket agent then responded, well, if you don't have a passport, you can't board the plane. And then the Indian man responded, he's from Sudan. We do this all the time. And the ticket agent then said, well, you'll need to talk to my manager or something along those lines, and pointed the two men down a hallway to go speak to the manager. They then proceeded down the hallway. This was the only time I saw this particular Indian man. This was the only time I saw the black man until he tried to blow up our plane a few hours later.
Okay, going back, so you then you must have gotten on the plane before him or something. You didn't see how he got on.
No, because shortly after they went down the hallway, we boarded the plane.
And then, wow. And obviously, everyone should be talking. It should be all over the news. Who was the mystery man? Who could get through security? Who could bring this guy in? Who could get people on airplanes without passports, international flights, into the United States, some of the highest security in the world? I mean, this just gets crazier and crazier, Mr. Haskell. Uh-oh. We just lost his phone line connection to Michigan. Oh. Only seems to happen at times like that. And if you don't think they're surveilling Mr. Haskell, you're living on another planet, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, doesn't matter. The info's out. I've had some private conversations with Mr. Haskell, but I do wear a journalist hat as part of what I do. I'm also a filmmaker. I do editorialize as well. I also preach a bit. Some say rabble-rouse, but I do wear a journalist hat, and what is said in confidence is said in confidence. Absolutely amazing that just happened. Okay, we have Mr. Haskell back. Hopefully we can keep him for the last 10 minutes. Mr. Haskell, sorry you got cut off.
No problem.
Okay, we were getting up to the point, just briefly, of how could this person get him on the plane? I mean, what gravitas did he have with airport security?
You're asking me?
Yes, sir.
I really don't want to speculate on it other than, you know, I can see three possibilities, and which one you think it was, I don't know. Three would be there was a bribe, there was some sort of personal relationship between this man and the security manager, and number three would be that this is a regular routine procedure to get on planes without a passport for refugees of war-torn countries.
Well, it's not. They've got to get special letters from the embassy. That's yeah, go ahead.
Pick which one of the three you think it is. To me, those are the only choices.
Or he was an intelligence agent telling the young fool he was part of a drill.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, once you're on the plane, you're coming into Detroit. what happens next?
It was a really uneventful flight. We're in the middle of our descent into Detroit. The pilot comes on the speaker, and he says we have 10 minutes to landing. Flight crew, take your seats and buckle up. A flight attendant walks by my seat, mumbling to herself, something smells like smoke. I look up. I'd previously been looking at the monitor on the back of the seat in front of me to get the flight conditions and everything because I like to watch that when we're landing. I looked up. I'm in row 27. I could see smoke coming from row 19, 8 rows up. It wasn't a lot of smoke at that time, and it looked like it was coming from the floor, but I couldn't see the floor because I was sitting down. So I unbuckled my seatbelt, took a few steps up the aisle to get a better look, and then it burst into flames across the floor of the seats and up the wall to the ceiling. Just in row 19 and just to the seats left of the left aisle, which I think there were 3 seats, A, B, and C. When it burst into flames, people were screaming, "Fire! Fire! Terrorists! Water! 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 We need water! Somebody get water!" Flight attendants were screaming. The pilot comes on the intercom and says, "Emergency landing," and starts speeding up. And while this is going on, the terrorist man's being hauled off into the first class area by a couple passengers. He didn't really put up any fight.
Just to interrupt, Mr. Haskell, I also read and heard that the stewardesses were screaming, "Sit down," the whole time, and almost like it was a bad thing to have these men go up there and take this guy out.
I didn't see that, so I can't confirm that.
Okay, good. I mean, I hope that's not true. They were so foolish they wanted to wait for orders. Okay, continuing. So they drag him up into first class.
Yeah.
Now, did you hear this popping noise, or how loud was it? Because we heard about this big explosion, and then it was just a popping, and then people thought it was a firecracker.
Okay. Honestly, I didn't hear a thing. I asked my wife if she heard anything, and this is what she says about it. It sounded like what I thought was the landing gear coming out, and then she said, I heard like a little popping noise after that, but I just thought it was ice breaking off from the opening of the landing gear because we had been in really cold weather. And she said, I thought that's what it was and didn't think anything of it. But myself, I didn't hear a thing, to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, there are so many things, Mr. Haskell, to talk about here. In the last few minutes we've got, and I want to say bye to you during the break. I know you've got to go. We appreciate this time. In the last 5 minutes, any other points you'd like to make, any key issues that haven't been discussed, and as a concerned citizen who could have been killed by this, as a free person, I mean, you do have a right to make any statements you want about the investigation. We are 5 days into this, and we've not seen any surveillance footage. The media doesn't seem concerned about, like the radio station source I mentioned earlier. Let me be exact about that. 620. She said, yeah, the whole flight he was taping. We kept wondering why. Why aren't you seeing that video on the news? You're seeing a cop photo after the cops came on when the plane landed. Everybody's saying, well, that must be the footage with the police arresting him. No, there weren't a bunch of uniformed Detroit airport police on the plane. The citizens got him, tied him up, strip searched him to make sure he didn't have any more bombs. And that's a police photo. Why aren't the police releasing